I'm 72 years old, and the biggest mistake I made after turning 60 was getting a boyfriend. I never thought I would say that out loud. For most of my life, I believed what many women believe, that love and companionship are the answer to loneliness. After my husband passed away and the house became quieter each year, the silence started to feel heavier. My friends told me I deserved happiness again. They said life was too short to spend it alone. So when a man entered my life in my late 60s, I thought it was a second chance at love. At first, it felt exciting, someone to talk to, someone to share meals with, someone who said good morning and asked how my day was going. After years of independence and quiet routines, that attention felt comforting. But what I didn't expect were the problems that slowly followed. The emotional complications, the stress I thought I had left behind decades ago. The small arguments, the misunderstandings, the pressures that quietly started replacing the peace I had worked so hard to build in my life. And one day I caught myself thinking something I never imagined I would think. My life was calmer before he arrived. No one talks about this part of relationships after 60. Society often tells older women that finding a partner again is the path to happiness. But what many of us learn much later is that love at this stage of life can bring challenges no one ever warned us about. And the truth is, many women discover these lessons only after it's too late. If you stay with me until the end, I want to share the 5 truths about relationships after 60 that most women only learn through painful experience. Number 1, the illusion of loneliness. When I turned 65, the house felt emptier than ever. My husband had passed nearly a decade earlier, and the quiet that once brought peace now felt heavy, almost suffocating. I remember sitting by the window, watching couples walk hand in hand and feeling an ache in my chest. Loneliness, it's not just a word. It's a constant shadow that follows you through the days, whispering that something is missing. Society doesn't help either. Everywhere you look, there are stories about finding love again, ads for dating sites targeting seniors, movies that romanticize late-life relationships. You start to feel that being single at this age isn't normal, that somehow your life is incomplete. And I believed it. I believed that if I didn't find someone, I would be alone forever, and that terrified me. It was during this time that I met Robert. I'll be honest, I rushed into it. He was charming, attentive, and seemed genuinely interested in me. I told myself this was what I needed, a companion to fill the void, someone to share quiet evenings with, someone to make me feel alive again. I ignored the warning signs, the small red flags that whispered caution. All I focused on was the loneliness, and I wanted it gone. At first, it felt wonderful, but soon the cracks appeared, arguments over little things, misunderstandings and expectations I hadn't prepared for began to chip away at my peace. I realized too late that the ache I was trying to fill wasn't something he could fix. Loneliness isn't something a person can cure. It's something you face and transform yourself. Through this experience, I learned a vital lesson, one I wish I had known before Robert came into my life. The key to overcoming loneliness isn't finding someone else. It's finding yourself again. Rebuilding purpose, reconnecting with old friends, exploring new hobbies, and embracing independence. These are what truly heal the empty spaces in your life. And only when you are whole can companionship become a joy, not a lifeline. Number 2, when peace turns into emotional burden. After decades of raising children, managing a household, and surviving life's ups and downs, I thought I had finally reached a stage of peace. My mornings were quiet, my routine simple, and my days predictable in a comforting way. I could enjoy my tea without interruptions, read a book without feeling rushed, and spend time with friends without drama. I thought this was what late life happiness looked like. Then I met Henry. At first he seemed like a breath of fresh air, charming, attentive, and full of energy. I welcomed the companionship, thinking it would enhance my peaceful life. But very quickly I realized that relationships later in life can come with burdens we never anticipate. Small disagreements escalated into arguments. He wanted my attention constantly, expected me to rearrange my schedule, and reacted with jealousy over things that had never mattered before. I found myself stressed in ways I hadn't experienced in years. The quiet evenings I cherished were replaced with tension. The freedom I had built, freedom to choose how I spent my time, freedom to say no, freedom to enjoy solitude, started slipping away. I remember one afternoon sitting alone in my favorite chair, tears quietly falling, thinking, how did I let this happen? I had worked so hard for this peace. This experience taught me a lesson I wish someone had warned me about. Peace in later life is far more valuable than romance that creates stress. After 60, our emotional stability is precious. A partner should complement your life, not consume it. I learned that it's okay to enjoy companionship in small doses, but losing the calm you've earned over decades is too high a price to pay for love that feels urgent or necessary. Sometimes saying no to a relationship is not rejection. It's self-preservation. Protecting your peace is the most important love you can give yourself at this stage of life. Number 3, financial and practical complications. When I retired, I thought I had finally achieved security. After years of working, saving, and planning carefully, I had a modest nest egg, a small pension, and a clear understanding of my finances. I felt proud of the independence I had built, but I never imagined that getting involved with a new partner could put all of that at risk. When I met George, I was drawn to his charm and stories of travel and adventure. At first, I didn't think much about money. He seemed genuine and companionship felt comforting. But soon, I noticed subtle hints that our financial expectations didn't match. A dinner here, a small loan there, and then more serious requests. George began to expect that I contribute to his lifestyle, pay for trips, and even cover certain bills. What started as small favors quickly became a pattern of financial pressure. It wasn't just the money. These expectations also created tension with my adult children. They were protective and concerned, questioning whether this relationship was healthy or even safe. Suddenly, the independence I had cherished was entangled with stress, judgment, and responsibility for someone else's needs. I felt trapped, wondering how I had let this happen after all the years I had spent carefully managing my life. Through this experience, I learned a crucial lesson, one every woman over 60 should hear. Protecting your financial independence is not optional. It is essential. After retirement, your resources are often fixed, and relying on or giving to a partner can quickly create imbalance, stress, and even regret. A relationship should never make you feel financially vulnerable or responsible for another adult in ways that compromise your security. I realized that love and companionship should never come at the cost of stability. The freedom to make decisions, to spend or save as you choose, and to live without financial anxiety is a treasure earned over decades. And once it's gone, it's hard to recover. That lesson, hard and painful as it was, is one I carry with me every day. Number 4. Family and social complications. When I started seeing Leonard in my late 60s, I didn't think about how it would affect my family. I was thrilled to have someone to share my days with, someone to laugh with over morning coffee, someone to accompany me to events I used to attend alone. I felt alive again, but I didn't realize that introducing a new partner into my life would create ripples far beyond my own happiness. My adult children were the first to react. At first, they tried to be polite, but I could feel the unease behind their smiles. They questioned his intentions, worried about my safety, and expressed concern that I might be rushing into something I didn't fully understand. Every visit, every phone call carried a subtle tension. I tried to reassure them, but the more I defended Leonard, the more distant they became. It didn't stop there. Leonard, despite his charm, had expectations and habits that clashed with my family's long-established routines. Family dinners became awkward, holidays felt stressful, and the ease we once shared melted away under small arguments and misunderstandings. I began to feel torn between loyalty to my children and the attention Leonard demanded. Slowly, the relationships I had nurtured for decades began to fray. I remember one evening sitting alone after a family gathering, realizing that my pursuit of companionship had unintentionally driven a wedge between me and the people who mattered most. That moment was painful, but it was also enlightening. Through this experience, I learned a lesson that I wish I had understood before getting involved. Family stability and lifelong relationships are precious, and they require careful protection. Introducing a new partner can disrupt bonds that took decades to build. It's not that love and companionship are inherently bad, but after 60, the consequences of a relationship extend far beyond your own life. Sometimes choosing peace with your family, protecting long-term connections, and prioritizing those who have always been there is far wiser than pursuing romance that risks emotional distance or conflict. Love may feel urgent, but family and harmony are priceless. Number 5, the freedom. Many women realize too late. After the heartbreak, the stress, and the lessons I had learned from relationships in my later years, I discovered something unexpected: freedom. At first, it felt strange to be fully alone again, without a partner to answer to, without obligations beyond my own choosing. But slowly, I began to realize that this freedom was not emptiness. It was life in its purest, most joyful form. I started small. Mornings were mine again, to sip coffee while watching the sunrise, to read, to write in my journal without anyone demanding my attention. I reconnected with old friends I hadn't spoken to in years, laughing over memories and sharing new stories. I even joined a local painting class, something I had always wanted to do, but never found time for when life was filled with family and obligations. Travel became a new passion. I took short trips to nearby towns, exploring places I had only dreamed about. I traveled alone, learning to enjoy my own company, to trust myself, and to embrace spontaneity without compromise. The world felt wider, more vibrant, and I felt fully alive in a way I hadn't in years. I remember my friend Margaret, who at 68 left a stressful relationship she had been in for 2 years. At first, she feared loneliness, but within months, she discovered a version of herself she hadn't met in decades. Confident, joyful, and completely independent. She told me, "I thought I needed someone to complete me, but I was already whole." That story stayed with me because it echoed my own awakening. The lesson became clear. Companionship does not always mean romance. Love is not the only path to fulfillment, especially after 60. Sometimes the happiest life comes from embracing your own freedom, building friendships, exploring passions, and enjoying peace without compromise. I realized that freedom is a gift earned after decades of work, struggle, and perseverance. Protecting it, savoring it, and celebrating it is far more rewarding than chasing relationships that threaten the independence and joy we've worked so hard to achieve. At this stage of life, happiness often comes from within, and the choice to live fully on your own terms is the most liberating love story of all. As I look back on my life, I realize that aging changes everything. Our priorities, our patience, and the way we measure happiness. After 60, what once seemed urgent, finding a partner, filling empty hours, chasing romance, becomes far less important than peace, dignity, and independence. We begin to understand that emotional stability, self-respect, and the freedom to live life on our own terms are far more precious than any fleeting relationship. I want to be clear. This isn't about rejecting love. It isn't about closing your heart or denying yourself companionship. It's about understanding the risks of relationships entered for the wrong reasons, the loneliness we hope to escape, the thrill we hope to recapture, or the pressure to follow society's idea of what happiness should look like. Love at this stage of life can be beautiful, but it can also bring stress, financial risk, family tension, and emotional burdens we aren't willing to bear. The real wisdom comes when we realize that the greatest happiness isn't found in another person. It's found in ourselves. It's in the quiet mornings we savor, the friendships we nurture, the passions we pursue, and the peace we create by honoring our own independence. That freedom, that calm is not empty. It is life at its fullest, rich with experience, self-awareness, and joy that isn't dependent on anyone else. So, if there's one lesson I want to leave with you, it's this. The most profound love story you will ever live may not be with someone new, but with yourself. When you finally embrace your own worth, protect your peace, and honor your freedom, you discover a happiness that lasts far longer than any fleeting romance ever could.